Before we dive into the details, it's important to note that the information discussed in this video is based on data gathered from pre-release testing phases and unofficial sources. While these insights provide a fascinating glimpse into what might be coming to Honkai Star Rail, they are subject to change. The developers may adjust, rework, or even remove certain features or mechanics before the official release. As always, take this information with a grain of caution and keep in mind that the final product may differ from what's been shared here. Honkai Star Rail has always been a game that thrives on strategic depth, team synergy, and the constant evolution of its meta. But with the upcoming release of Castorice, a character whose unique talent, Sanctuary of the Lunar Cocoon, fundamentally alters the way battles are approached, the game is facing a seismic shift. This talent isn't just powerful, it's game-breaking, and here's why. Castorice's Sanctuary of the Lunar Cocoon introduces a mechanic that redefines survivability in Honkai Star Rail. When an ally receives a killing blow, instead of being downed immediately, they enter the Lunar Cocoon state. In this state, the character can take one final action before facing potential defeat. This means that even in the direst of situations, your team gets a second chance to turn the tide of battle. Whether it's dealing a crucial final blow, applying a debuff, or setting up a healing ability, this mechanic adds an unprecedented layer of flexibility and strategy to combat. But the true power of this talent lies in its universal applicability. Unlike character-specific abilities that only benefit the user or a select few, Sanctuary of the Lunar Cocoon affects the entire roster. As long as Castorice is in your team, every character gains access to this life-saving mechanic. This makes her an indispensable addition to any team composition, regardless of whether you're running a hypercarry setup, a tank-heavy team, or a fragile speed-based squad. The sheer versatility of this talent ensures that Castorice will dominate the meta, making her a must-pull for any serious player. Moreover, this talent introduces a new layer of decision-making in battles. The Lunar Cocoon state isn't just a free pass, it's a double-edged sword. If the affected character isn't healed or shielded before their next turn, they'll still be downed. This creates a dynamic risk-reward scenario where players must carefully manage their resources and timing. Do you use your healer's ultimate to save the cocooned ally, or do you gamble on them surviving long enough to contribute one last action? This added complexity elevates the strategic depth of the game, making battles more engaging and rewarding. However, the introduction of such a powerful mechanic also raises concerns about balance. Castorice's talent essentially gives every team a built-in safety net, which could trivialize certain challenging content. This is especially concerning given the developer's recent trend of making endgame content increasingly difficult. Activities like Memory of Chaos, Simulated Universe, and high-level boss fights have been designed to push players to their limits, requiring meticulous planning, optimal team compositions, and flawless execution. But with Sanctuary of the Lunar Cocoon, the stakes are significantly lowered. Mistakes that would have been fatal in the past can now be mitigated, reducing the tension and challenge that make these modes rewarding. This shift in balance has far-reaching implications for the game's roster. Castorice's talent doesn't just make her a strong character, it overshadows past characters who were designed with survivability in mind. This creates a clear case of power creep, where new characters render older ones obsolete, undermining the value of players' investments in their existing rosters. Looking to the future, Castorice's presence also poses a challenge for character design. How do the developers create new characters that feel impactful when Sanctuary of the Lunar Cocoon already sets such a high bar for utility? Future characters will either need to match or exceed this level of power, accelerating the power creep cycle, or risk being ignored by the player base. This could lead to a homogenization of the meta, where only characters with similarly game-breaking abilities are considered viable, stifling creativity and diversity in team building. In conclusion, Castorice's Sanctuary of the Lunar Cocoon is a groundbreaking addition to Honkai Star Rail that redefines how players approach combat. Its universal applicability, strategic depth, and sheer power make it one of the most impactful talents in the game. While it undeniably enhances the player experience, it also poses significant challenges to the game's balance and diversity. The developers' efforts to make endgame content more challenging are undermined by this talent, and the resulting power creep threatens to overshadow past characters and constrain future design possibilities. So, will you roll for her? Or will you risk being left behind in the wake of the lunar cocoon's revolution? The choice is yours, but one thing's for certain. Castorice is changing the game, and there's no going back. Whether this change is for better or worse remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: Honkai Star Rail will never be the same if they do release this.